AI is going to be one of those things. And it can be helpful. It's just how you use it. You can't use it for everything, but it will never ever take over the communications role. At the end of the day, it is a human driven position and it requires strategy that no tool can ever replace, essentially. It's there to help make things more optimized, but certainly not take away.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Quickfire Marketing. I'm your host, E.T. Mac. Very special guest today, PR expert, admin guru, all of the above with Celeste. Celeste, I'll let you introduce yourself if I missed anything.
Thanks, ET, for having me. Yes, I'm Celeste. I've been with Expert Marketing Advisors since it started in 2017. But prior to that, I built my career in enterprise PR. I started off at HP Software when HP was actually trying to get off the hardware industry. And so they did a number of acquisitions, and I came from a company called Mercury Interactive, which was the leader in application testing back in the day. And I learned analyst relations and PR. And I learned it in house. And since I didn't have a traditional background, like I didn't start at an agency, I decided to actually go work for an agency after a few years, learn how the sausage was made. So I worked in the city for a couple of PR agencies. And it was around the time when social media was just coming into play. And it was fascinating to see how that changed the news business and how reporters were getting their news and how companies had less control over their messaging.
So one thing I really wanted to dive in is there's this like old saying, and let me know if I'm doing it wrong. It's no news is bad news is good news still. Is that still true? Like you mentioned social media, is that still true in today's world where things just go viral and then there's like information and then kind of like what I call like what is it, earthquake waves of like misinformation or just other information, or it just it goes wild?
No, I think that that is a really interesting point because what happened when social media came into play was that the media was using social channels to get their news from. And it was no longer like the old corporate playbook of coming up with messaging and then being able to get everyone aligned and then being able to share that. Some of that still exists today, but for larger vendors or in times of crisis, if something is said about your company that is untrue, like in a time of when your systems go down, how do you respond to that? And I actually asked Alex at the News Stack, what should I be doing as a communications leader? How do I manage this? And he's like, you got to get involved in the community. And what he meant was that I need to start building customer advocates who would be a voice for my company and go online and basically tell their story. And if something didn't happen, they're sharing it from their perspective, which is a firsthand, they're a reporter of a firsthand incident versus people who are just online rapidly sharing things and it may or may not be true. So one thing I've learned is, if it's unsaid, you got to be the first to also come out with your messaging when the time is right, but also use third party advocates to help be that voice of reason in times of crisis. Because if you don't control everything from just your messaging as it had been in the past. So, community was one of the big key drivers of today and why it's so necessary for businesses to participate in it.
If I'm looking to hire a communications person and a PR person, right? I'm looking to hire them in, and I have a couple. I'm just starting up my company and I have a number of motions available in front of me because PLG sounds really shiny right now. A lot of people are
Right.
attempting it. What are some traits that are valuable that I should be looking for, regardless of if I go the product route or the corporate route, that you think someone should see?
I seen, the last couple of years when there was a lot of startups getting new funding, A lot of them are like, yeah, we need to vocalize our milestones. We need to get in front. We need to start raising awareness of what we're doing. They were held accountable for standards. Now that there's a lot less, you know, funding happening right now, there's just a lot less need for the PR at the early stage companies. I see a lot more product level type of communication roles being put out there by larger or higher growth companies. But there is a sweet spot for when companies do start engaging communications, because if you think back to the bakery example,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have enough donuts or pastries to put out there, then there's nothing to communicate. I think the value of the communication space is being redefined, especially as AI comes in. It's definitely challenged the editorial space. You know, you see a lot of magazines who are in trouble for using AI. And I think this goes back to your earlier comment about we need more content. We just need content. And so people are turning to things that are handy and easy to pick up. AI is going to be one of those things. And it can be helpful. It's just how you use it. You can't use it for everything, but it will never ever take over the communications role. At the end of the day, it is a human driven position, and it requires strategy that no tool can ever replace, essentially. It's there to help make things more optimized, but certainly not take away.
Celeste, thank you for hopping on the pod. Guys, you can always find us wherever podcasts are found. And Celeste will have her LinkedIn information as well. You can connect with her if you have any more questions. Trying to end on a lighter note or a different note. What's a crazy, chaotic moment that you've done PR for that demonstrated the value and like how underrated your role was?
Back when I was working at HP Software, at the time, I don't know if you recall, it was when like Periscope was just kind of coming into fold and we were
Mm-hmm.
doing live views or live streaming for that matter. I had set up a media roundtable. We were doing a launch of our product. And I remember I had like 6 or 7 reporters in the executive briefing center, and I had a bunch of product managers coming throughout the day, kind of giving their spiel. And one of them put on their live stream, and we helped, promote, pushed it out through our social channels. And as it was happening, we could see like all these viewers coming online and watching. And what was cool about it is we could see directly that it was our competitor, that it made it like, oh, yeah, they were actually interested in seeing what was happening. And when we caught our competitor's eye, I think that is really, and you could track it because you could see who's actually logging in. That was very successful. Most of the time today, you won't know if your competitor's looking at you or when they're looking at you. And you could see how many times they clicked on your link. In this case, we saw our competitor come back and click 3 times just to like listen in. It was like, was he not sure or sure? That was a great question because it made me really think about, you know, how communications has changed. In some ways, we were more flexible because we had a plan internally. But now that information is everywhere, we've just become a lot more tight about how we approach things. And so we've lost a lot of that fun, big wins, because the big wins you expect to happen from your plan. So that feeling is not as high as it could be, as it once
Yeah.
was. So,
You're like, I know I'm going to win versus like, whew, maybe, fingers crossed.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. When you expect something to happen, it's more of a disappointment when it doesn't. But when you don't expect it to happen and it does, that feeling is untouchable. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. Happy to run this back again with more PR insights. Again, thanks everyone for joining us, and we're good. It's hot, and there's cow. I have I guess, a conspiracy theory in my own neighborhood that we have cows on the mountainside right here, about a block up, and if I can hear them mooing, the internet's gonna be bad. So I can hear them mooing. So it's just been spotty internet.
There's something relaxing about cows. We've got them too. I don't see them from my house, but They're very nice to see during the day. It's just really relaxing. They're very calming creatures to see.